Here's a video on lesson 59, which is a handout to help you review the arc functions. The arc functions are the inverse of the original three, sine, cosine, and tangent, and we do all the arc functions from the calculator. So you will need a graphing calculator, TI-83, 84, or equivalent, in order to do these. Now, I'm going to use the first two examples just to remind you about how these work. So, my goal here, based on the directions, is to solve for the value of the variable, so the value in this case for question 1 of y, to the nearest degree. So I'm going to make sure that I'm in degree mode before I start using my calculator. For question 1, I want to get y by itself, so I need to be able to get rid of the tangent. Well, what gets rid of a tangent but a tangent inverse? And that's arctangent. So if I applied that to both sides, here's what I get. I get the arctangent of the tangent of y is equal to the arctangent of 0.7536. Now, tangent and arctangent cancel each other out, leaving me with just y equals. On the right-hand side, this is purely calculator work. So I'm going to bring up my calculator. I, once again, want to make sure that I'm in the correct mode. So I'm going to hit this button here, mode. I'm going to scroll down. I'm going to select degree. I'm going to hit enter. If your calculator is already on degree mode, then you're good. And in order to get back to the main screen, you just hit second mode because it says quit right above it. So second mode quits me back out to the main screen. Now what I want to do is I want to do the tangent inverse, arctangent, of 0.7536. So second tangent brings up arctan of 0.7536, and then press enter, and it tells me 37.001, etc. degrees. Now, let me see if the instructions says anything about rounding to the nearest degree. So that's whole numbers. So the answer to this one right here, based on what I've plugged into the calculator, is y equals 37 degrees. Now, this whole page is a great warm-up for how these work in general. I'll do one more with you, just in case you are starting to catch your stride. Let's do question 2 together. I want to solve for the value of u. What I'm going to do to both sides is I'm going to apply the sine inverse because I want to be able to cross out that sine. So I'm going to apply the sine inverse, that's arc sine. So arc sine of sine of u is equal to the arc sine of 0.7193. So I've just applied the arc sine to what was already on both sides. On the left-hand side, it's going to cancel out, so I'm just going to get u equals, on the right-hand side, arc sine of that decimal. So second sine of 0.7193. And let's see how many degrees that is. 45.996, since we're rounding to the nearest whole number, we would say 46 degrees. Okay, so that's how you're going to do the front of this. Now, if you're using this to cover a class, you can pause here and give some work time before we move on to the back, but I'm going to, in this video, just move right on to the next section. Starting off at question 15, we have what we call trigonometric equations. Okay, trigonometric equations. And what that means is we're solving them just like regular equations. The only difference is that they also involve trig functions. Well, what are we solving for? Normally, when we're doing these, we solve for x, right? An equation, we're normally solving for x or whatever variable it happens to be. In this case, x isn't our variable. Our variable is theta. So I want to get theta, T-H-E-T-A, this symbol here, all by itself. So when I'm solving one of these, my goal is to first isolate the cos, the sine, the trig function, okay? So the first thing we do is isolate the trig function. Now the trig function is here. It's the cosine of theta plus 330. So what do I need to get rid of here? I'm going to circle the whole trig function. What I need to get rid of is I need to get rid of this negative 4. It's attached with multiplication, so in order to get rid of it, I'm going to use division. So I'll divide by negative 4 here, and I'll divide by negative 4 here. And these will cancel out. 4 divided by negative 4, if you weren't sure, 4 divided by negative 4 is negative 1. So I've got negative 1 is equal to cosine of parentheses theta plus 330. If I want to get at the theta directly, I need to start from the outside in. I need to get rid of this cosine first. I can't get at the 330 because it's stuck on the inside. So I'm going to get rid of the cosine by using the arc cosine. These will cancel. I'm just going to need my calculator to tell me what this left-hand side is. So let me check real quick. The arc cosine of negative 1, second cos of negative 1. Okay, that's 180. So I've got 180, I think it's in degrees, because that's my mode, is equal to, what's left? Theta plus 330. And to get theta by itself, my last and final move is to get rid of the 330. So I'm going to minus 330 from both sides. 180 minus 330 is negative 150. So negative 150 degrees is what the angle theta is equal to. Now that's the way to do these algebraically, and these rely a lot on your equation solving abilities, right? We work from the outside in, trying to isolate the theta, okay? Now if anybody is very good at equation solving and would like to help out the class, that would be great. I'm going to do question 16, and since we've done these in class, right, we've had a lesson on these already, I'm going to give you the alternate method. Now, I can do everything algebraically like I did here, write out all my steps, do all my algebra, and for a question like number 17 or even 18, that seems very easy, right? That seems like the best move. But for something like number 16, that looks a little more complicated, what I think I'd like to do is I would like to use my calculator to do all the heavy lifting here. Now, so this right here is the calculator heavy method. Now what I do is I say, okay, I want to get theta by itself. So on the right-hand side, what do I need to do to get theta by itself? I'm going to have to get rid of this 1 first. So I'm going to have to minus 1, right? So instead of writing it out as algebra, I'm going to write it out as steps. So I'm going to minus 1, and that's going to cross this out. Now, the next thing I'm going to need to do is, this is sine of negative 4 theta. I'm going to need to get rid of the sine. So how do I get rid of a sine? I get rid of a sine by applying the arc sine to it. And that would cancel that out. Now once I have just this left, negative 4 theta, how would I get rid of the negative 4? Negative 4 times theta, so I would divide by negative 4. And so I'm just going to write that down as a step. Divide by negative 4. And that would get rid of this. And that would get me theta all by itself. So if that's what I would do on the right side, I'm going to have to do the same thing on the left, because that's how equations work. What you do on the right, you must also do on the left. And when I say right and left, I'm talking about the left and right side of the equal sign, right? So if I put a line right through the equal sign, okay, what I do on the right, I must also do on the left. So here's what I'm going to do. I am going to float my calculator on the screen like I did before, and I'm just going to follow these steps. Okay, here's my calculator. Make it a little bigger, easier to see hopefully. I'm going to start off with this number, 2 minus radical 3 over 2. Let's just figure out what that's equal to. When we plug things like this into the calculator, we need to make sure that we have a parentheses around the numerator. And if the denominator was complicated, I would put parentheses around that too. But it's simple, so I don't need it in this case. But if you want to be safe, always put parentheses around the top and the bottom. So let me type this in. Parentheses 2 minus the square root of 3. Close the parentheses. Divided by, and just because we're being safe, divided by 2. Okay, now that's this original number. Now the steps I have to do to it are as follows. I have to minus 1, do the arc sign, and then divide by -4. So let's do that. So minus 1. Then we're going to do the arc sign. So the arc sign of, you can type this number out, -0.866, etc., or you could also just choose to hit second and then the negative sign, and that gives you answer, ANS, and that's just going to pull this decimal right into function. So the arc sign of whatever the last answer was. So the arc sign, okay, we've done that, and now we need to divide by -4. So divide by -4. And I get 0.261799, etc., So in this case, my theta is going to be a very small decimal. Is equal to 0.262. And just like in class, we're going to keep 3 decimal places where the instructions don't tell us otherwise what to do as far as rounding goes. So I hope that this has been helpful. If any of the questions are particularly difficult, you can discuss them with me at a later date. We can sit in office hours, but you should be able to complete the rest of these. So good luck, and I'll see you in class.